Hi again, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm, and I've probably mentioned more than once that you should start with clean and sharp blades for your pruning and propagation. That's for the benefit of your plants, and today I want to show you how to do that. The anatomy of a bypass pruner has a blade and a counter blade. The blade does all the cutting, and the counter blade just holds the plant material, the stem or the leaf, in place while that cutting is taking place. It's a flat surface here and doesn't require any sharpening. It's only the blade that requires sharpening. But not so fast. If I sharpen this inside edge, I can actually ruin the tool, or at least ruin the blade. So that stays flat. It's supposed to pass by the counter blade very tightly to make that cut. It's the other edge, this edge of the blade, that requires sharpening. You kind of tell because there's a bevel there already. That's where the sharpening comes out of the factory. This tool here, a carbide sharpener, will make quick work of sharpening up that blade because it's a harder material. Let me show you how. You can see on this sharpening tool that it has a squared off edge and it has a rounded edge. We're going to be using the squared off edge, and we're going to hold it at the equivalent of about a 22.5 degree angle against this blade here, and then just run it across. It can be awkward to get that acute angle against the blade here. Happily, you don't have to do it more than a few times. And as you're doing it, I don't know if I'll get this detail, you can see little filings of the blade coming off with the carbide sharpener. How do I know if it's sharp enough? Well, of course, by testing it. This should make a clean cut of foliage. Nice and sharp edge there on that cut. It should also go through even a thick stem with minimal effort, and nice and clean. Just as important, in my opinion, is keeping your pruners disinfected or clean. In this case, I'm using just a disinfectant spray or disinfecting wipes. Even though the brand name on this is Clorox, it is not a bleach-based product, and that's important. A lot of people ask whether you can use bleach to clean your blades. The problem with bleach is that it's a corrosive, and so it will tend to diminish the quality of your blades over time, especially if you leave it on after a cleaning. So I suppose if you used a 10% bleach solution and you wiped it off really carefully afterwards, you could get away with that, but I would prefer to use something that it doesn't cause damage to hard surfaces, and these ones here are based on an N-alkyl solution, dimethyl ammonium chloride in both of them actually, so they're both similarly formulated, which doesn't damage hard surfaces. And in this case I'm going to use the spray. Just spray both sides and then wipe it down using a shop cloth. With the blade now cleaned and dried, there's one last thing I'd like to recommend, which is to lubricate it. In this case, I'm using WD-40. The reason I like WD-40 is that it displaces any water that's remaining. So if I didn't clean that perfectly, if I've left some moisture either inside of the spring or between the blade and the counter blade in the construction of the pruner, then this will help to get that out of the way. One more factor in the cleanliness of the cut is whether there's space between this blade and the counter blade when it closes. There should be no gap up in this area here. And in fact, you can feel that when you grab the two handles in two different hands like this and just try to rock them back and forth. And in this case, it's very tight. This one's a rather new pruner. But as they get older, they start to wear down and loosen up. And so with this one here, I can feel as I wiggle my right hand here, there's a little knocking back and forth between in this joint here. And the way to fix that on a Felco or its clones is to tighten on this bolt here, to just tighten it up slightly. And that will make the pruner both tighter at this point, but also have none of that gap in between. Now, that's probably a little too tight. I'm going to loosen it out just a little. So it is actually a bit of a balance there between the workability of the blade and also the tightness of the blade. But you do want a nice tight fit between the blade and the counter blade.